Yes, we are
All right.
live now again.
Cool. All right, let's sit up straight.
Let's sit up straight, make sure our shirts aren't wrinkled. We should have done this
Try to-
before we hit the buttons,
All
Bob.
right. Is there anything else we have to do to pretend to be important?
Just act like it.
Just
All right. Anyway, you guys, welcome. Here we are. This is our 4th or 5th episode of Live Forever Young Live. You know,
Yeah.
That's what we're calling it, Live Forever Young Radio Live. And we are happy to be here today.
Live on YouTube and Facebook.
Oh, yeah. We've got YouTube going here. We've got Live Forever Young Radio Facebook Live. We've got Boomer Wellness Network Live. And we're on TikTok. Hello, guys, on TikTok. So, yes, TikTok won't let me use this camera. They have to make it difficult. I have to use my phone.
Yeah, well, that's all right. You know, the last time we were on, our friend Marlon Mueller was watching live
Yes.
and chimed in.
Yes,
and you
he
know
was.
who else was watching?
Who?
Was Rex Bear.
There you go.
And Rex actually sent a little text that said, "You guys are awesome."
That's great.
And the very next day, his wife contacted me to say, "You want to come on Rex's show?"
That's great.
And so the fact that we were on this live stimulated Rex to go, "Oh, we got to have Bob back on my show."
We got to have the Anunnaki one, as he
Anunnaki.
calls you. He
That's
calls
it.
you Anu. He says Bob is definitely Anunnaki.
Yeah.
So that's good. Glad
So-
to have the Anunnaki in the house. We're glad to have you guys here. Welcome again.
And who knows who will chime in today?
Hey, I hope anybody who's here that has any questions does not hesitate.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for. Actually, that's why we kind of switched to this format, because we did 80 some odd episodes where we pre-recorded it. Actually, I just released a brand new one today called How Havening Works with Hillary Russo. Remember when we had Hillary on?
Yeah, that everybody's got to watch that one. Hillary is the most amazing person. She's an integrative nutritionist, a professional health and life coach. She's a certified havening practitioner. She's going to be speaking at the International Congress on Havening in Ireland,
Yes.
I think in June.
It's going to be huge.
Yeah, and we got to interview her for 2 hours.
Yes. So we broke it up into 3 episodes, and I just released episode number 2 today on YouTube. And then the podcast will be coming out sometime this evening. I'm going to hit the button for right around 12:30, 1 o'clock this afternoon. Because that's not this evening, really, is it? But anyway, so you'll see episode 2. And if you didn't see episode 1, that's called Hug It Out with Hillary. You got to check that out. Talks about her Hug It Out program that she created.
Yeah, amazing. Well, you know, it will be evening in Ireland.
Yes.
And I think after Hillary speaks in Ireland, she's going to have a lot of followers in Ireland. So they'll be watching in the evening.
Absolutely. I think for as much energy she has, she'll be like St. Patrick's, and she'll be bringing new followers to Havening.
That's it. That's it. They'll be flocking to her.
There you go. So anyway, today, as you can see probably by the ticker tape over here on the screen, we're going to be talking about why do we have low energy, right? Why do so many people in America have low energy, and what can we do to increase it? And Bob's got some really, really cool input on this because he's dealt with this for, years. You know, I mean, since you worked in the nursing homes.
Oh, yeah.
Since that's been years.
One of the biggest things we found in nursing home residents with energy was they had a really hard time sleeping.
Yep.
So, and a big part of it was because they were old and frail. If they were to lie on their back all night long, they would get bed sores because of how thin their skin was. And so every 2 hours, the staff would come in and turn them to one side, to their back, to their other side, so they wouldn't get bed sores. So they were being woken up every 2 hours.
Now, is that something that was common practice, or are you able to modify that?
Well, what we did in one particular nursing facility was this was the dawn of Tempur-Pedic mattresses.
Oh yeah,
memory foam,
and
it had just started to happen.
Okay,
and so in one particular facility, we bought 200 memory foam mattresses. And we got rid of all the old mattresses.
That's a lot of,
and that solved the problem.
Tempur-Pedics.
Yeah, that solved the problem. We no longer had to turn people in bed at night, so they got a good night's sleep. They never got bed sores, and we saved enough money on the skincare products that you needed
for the
put
bed
onto
sores.
bed sores that it paid for the mattresses.
So bottom line is, not only does not sleeping well take low energy, but if you are a person who is older, right, and you're sleeping on a mattress that's not Tempur-Pedic, you're also going to get some physical issues. So that's not going. You're not going to want to move around,
which is going to cause an infection,
and
causes pain, depression.
Right.
And so it was a surprise to me the first day that we put them onto the beds. It was a big project, the delivery of it and like that, and then switching them all out. The next morning, I was the administrator, so I was down in my office, and one of the nurses called me and said, Mrs. So-and-so wants to talk to you. Can you come upstairs? And I did, and she's like, thank you so much. She goes, this is the first time I've slept well in as long as I can remember, and I feel amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And this was literally probably the first time in maybe 5 or 10 years she'd gotten a good night's sleep.
I had a question.
Great.
I had a question about this. So you had a kind of like a population of people that you could look at when you were in the nursing home. And I have a statistic here I want to ask you. Don't look at the statistic. Mm-hmm. But would you say that about 45% of the people in the nursing home had issues with sleep, or was it higher?
No, it was probably 99%.
Really?
200 residents, maybe one or two were sleeping okay.
Wow, that's crazy. So, okay, the reason why I brought that up is because I have a really cool statistic. It's not cool. This is not a cool statistic, but it's good to know this. So that way we can help to correct it in our own lives if it's something we deal with. Up to 45% of the United States population experiences fatigue that is persistent, right? And just like you said, fatigue is linked to many diseases and disorders, but is often underreported in medical care, right? So one of the things that wasn't underreported there was their inability to sleep and the problems they had during sleep.
Yeah, there just wasn't anything we could do about it until they created the memory foam.
Now, once you got that, did you notice the increase in energy in the population of the people?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's amazing.
Absolutely. They wanted to get up and about because they were well rested. They would come down to the activities department to participate. And
just playing more games, more game time.
All kinds of things. That nursing home also was what was called an Eden alternative, meaning we had dogs and cats and lots of plants and birds in bird cages everywhere around the facility. So they started interacting with the pets more.
That's awesome. And I love my cats. My cats wake me up in the morning, and the first thing they do, this one I got, his name is Frijoли. We call him Frijoli. And he is a Bombay cat, and Bombay cats are very talkative. And as soon as I wake up in the morning, he's, hey, food time, baby.
Yeah.
But it gives you something to wake up. It gives you, if I'm the only one who wakes up in the morning as early as I do, so I have someone there that says, hey, what's going on? So it gives you that motivation, that energy. But so we were talking about sleep as being one of the causes.
Yeah.
I have a list of some of the main causes. If you want, I'll start with the first one that we talk about a lot is nutrient deficiencies, right? Nutrient deficiencies are one of the main reasons why people go to see the doctor every year for chronic fatigue issues, right? And one in particular is a lack of iron, which can lead to anemia, right? That has particularly in women. There's a lot of women that I know, and my wife knows, that are low in iron. Vitamin B12 is a huge one.
Yeah, and on the iron for a second, also having iron that's too high.
Yes, that's another one.
If your iron is too high, what happens is the iron, the excess iron, interacts with a compound that's being produced by your Krebs cycle. So your Krebs cycle is your cycle of energy production. It's inside your cell, inside the lining of your mitochondria.
Yeah, we'll actually go over that a little bit in detail.
And if you have too much iron, the iron combines with a compound that's a waste product from the Krebs cycle, creates what's called a ROS, reactive oxygen species, and it damages the mitochondria and you get low energy. So the point is you want to keep your iron kind of in the middle to low middle of the range. Don't go too high and definitely don't go too low. If you go too high, you can always donate blood and bring your iron level down.
Right. And it's funny that you brought up the Krebs cycle because I was going to speak about the vitamin B12. And that's a very important vitamin for energy creation, and as well as vitamin D, which we talk about all the time. Vitamin D is essential for energy creation. And
and the other B vitamins too, B1, 3, 6 are involved in the Krebs cycle, and also coenzyme Q10. And most people are depleting CoQ10, especially if you're taking a statin drug for your heart. You're going to be very low in CoQ10. And so you always want to take extra CoQ10 if you're on a statin drug. But you also want to make sure you get enough B vitamins. The Krebs cycle is, producing ATP, which is the molecule of energy.
And just real quick, just a quick aside on this Krebs cycle, that happens inside the mitochondria, right?
Yep.
Okay, so when what's going on when that happens?
Well, it's a multi-sectorial process where you're using carbohydrates and fat for fuel, and it's converting the food that you eat essentially into energy.
Okay. And so that's the short answer. The long answer would take probably
long answer. I don't think there's any one person in the world that has memorized the entirety of the Krebs cycle, but it is on the internet because they did figure it out.
Good.
But there's also, multiple factors that go into the production of energy, the balance of energy, that are still being researched, that are offshoots of the Krebs cycle. And so
it's a very intricate process.
Yeah. But we do know that you can easily modify it by watching your iron level, and also making sure that you have the right substrates that are necessary to make the conversions in that multi-conversion process that eventuates in ATP.
Okay.
Right. And so that's B1, B3, B6, CoQ10.
Right.
If you're depleted in those, you're going to have a real hard time making energy.
Absolutely. And again, like we said, nutrient deficiency is one of the top reasons on my list here for the causes of fatigue. One of the things that we developed that's really great at it, grab that bottle there and show the camera, Bob, is our Boomer Boost. That's got 70 nutrients, vitamins, minerals, all the stuff we were literally just talking about is pretty much in there, right?
Yeah, that's part of the development of it, was to influence the Krebs cycle.
Right. And then so when you give your body what it needs to make its own energy, right, then you become more productive, right? We also have another couple things here on this list that can cause fatigue. We talk about mental health conditions, other emotional disturbances, maybe losing a loved one, right? That can cause you to, have low energy. We've talked about this on the show before, when you have the loss of a loved one, it's important to have a support system, right? So always reach out when you have something like that going on.
The other thing, Raleigh, in regard to nutrition, is thyroid issues.
Yes.
And so people can get very fatigued if you have an issue with thyroid, and sometimes you can get measurements of the various thyroid hormones, TSH, T4, T3, and it looks like they're all in the right range. Yet you're still not feeling great.
Yeah, you were talking about this with the one that they have to look for that they don't always check.
You want to look for reverse T3.
The reverse.
Right. Reverse T3 is part of a feedback loop. But to start out with, to convert TSH to T4 and then to convert T4 to T3, you need certain nutrients present for that particular conversion, right?
And you're talking about the thyroid hormones.
Yeah. And so what the nutrients are: vitamins, minerals, amino acids, again, all of which are in the Boomer Boost. So it not only addresses the Krebs cycle, it addresses the thyroid feedback loops.
Right.
And then with reverse T3 is a compound that signals your cell to stop accepting T3. So the T3 gets into the cell. It's involved in metabolic pathways. But when you have enough, you don't want to overload the cell. And reverse T3 is part of that signaling.
That tells it to stop.
If you get too much reverse T3, it's constantly signaling to stop. So you don't
make any.
Right.
Or not.
So you don't have
any.
enough.
You don't have enough.
Right. So to mitigate excessive reverse T3, you can use Siberian ginseng that will reduce the amount of excessive reverse T3. And that's all available in a website, or not a website, a blood test, right? So you can get all your regular thyroid hormones tested plus reverse T3, and then you'll have a really good idea if that's your issue.
Mm-hmm.
And it may or may not be.
Well, one of the other things like you were just talking about, I have the thyroid. It literally, that was next on my list. Then we started with sleep disorders. Sleep, it's obviously going to cause you to be fatigued if you don't, get enough. One of the things that you do a lot while you're sleeping is repairing too. You repair your body a lot. And so you need the nutrients that you may be depleting to repair your body at night. So if you're not sleeping well, you're not repairing well, you're not going to have any energy, right? So that's another thing. Autoimmune conditions, we've talked about those. Those can definitely cause a lot of fatigue.
And that can be a thyroid issue.
Yep. That's
Graves' disease, Hashimoto's disease are autoimmune.
We also have digestive issues like inflammatory bowel disease, ulcerative colitis, and things like that. Your body's constantly dealing with that, so that gets fatigued. Weight fluctuations, fibromyalgia, and multiple sclerosis. And then, of course, we talk about chronic fatigue syndrome. And that's basically defined as a complex condition marked by extreme long-lasting fatigue that can't be otherwise explained by other health factors. That's pretty broad.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of these things we're talking about can contribute to that because you go for a checkup and they can't figure out why you're fatigued.
A lot of times they only look at one thing.
Yeah, there's other issues too. For example, exposure to toxins.
Right.
So if you're exposed to a lot of toxicity, for example, living in a port town like where we are in Tampa, very, very difficult because the ships that are coming in and out are very poorly regulated for emissions. So you have a lot more air pollution in port towns like New York and like, Tampa, Port Elizabeth, San Diego, etc.
I used to live in South Jersey, which is real close to Philadelphia.
Yep. And
when you would cross those bridges over the ports, I don't know, maybe it was just my imagination, but it felt grayer there.
Yeah.
The environment seemed more gray.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. I don't know. If maybe like there's a fog hanging over it or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely know what you mean.
Yeah, there's military ships there in Philadelphia
lots of military ships.
But the other things that we've talked about before is avoid toxins that you can avoid, which are pervasive. For example, what you pick up on your shoes. So you pick up tire dust, pesticides, etc. on your shoes if you're out walking on the sidewalk, especially if you're walking in the grass.
Or asphalt specifically.
Yeah, and you come inside and you take your shoes off, leave them inside the house. They begin off-gassing toxins into the air. You're breathing them in all night long. Big contributor to fatigue. So leave your shoes outside.
Yes.
Right? The other big thing is your diet and overcooking meat.
Yes, we talk about that a lot.
Yep.
And
big contributor to toxins.
People don't realize. So like we love the little black pieces that get charred on the outside of a burger, or when you sear the meat and but that's actually creating glycotoxins, right? And then I've said this before, but you look at those things under a microscope, and if you didn't know what it was, and a scientist looked at it and they didn't know what it was, they would tell you, get that thing out of here. That thing is toxic. That'll kill you, man.
Yeah.
And yet we eat it.
So the rule of thumb is 300 degrees. If you cook your meat 300 degrees or over, it's going to create glycotoxins, even if you don't char it, even if it's not black. So the best thing to do is a slow cooker, right? And cook on low heat for a longer period of time.
What about smoking meat? Does that add the carcinogens, or is that actually a good way to do it?
No, smoking is much better.
Much better,
because it's at a lower temperature.
Well, right, I understand that, but I was thinking from the smoke, the smoke itself has carcinogens in it. Does that mess with the meat?
The smoke will add toxicity to the meat, but nothing anywhere near as bad as cooking it over 300 degrees.
Gotcha.
So that's the key thing. So also liquid. If you're going to cook, say you were going to bake some chicken at 350 degrees in the oven, put some chicken broth or just water in the pan that you're going to be cooking it in, because that water creates a little bit of steam and it blocks the glycation so that, you're not creating those toxins. And,
hey, Dolphins, I meant to say hi, but it sent you an invite, so please ignore that.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, Brian. How's it going, bud?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Raleigh, the other thing is we talked about depression and anxiety,
Mhm.
huge contributor to energy issues.
Absolutely.
Depression by itself will make you tired, but also anxiety, it makes it hard to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And so anxiety, being under constant anxiety, number one, uses a lot of energy in your brain, and anxiety also makes it very hard to sleep. So we have podcasts on both depression and anxiety.
Yep. Tips for better sleep is one of them. Go to boomerboost.com or check it out on our YouTube channel. If you go to boomerboost.com, you're going to look for blogs and podcasts button at the top or on the menu. It'll say LFYR podcasts, LFYR blogs. Podcasts are going to be our 82 shows we did prior. And then our blogs are going to be some written stuff that we put out. It's partially part of the show and partially blogs that we haven't really even covered, right? Yeah. So there's lots of good stuff there. Emotional freedom technique that helps with anxiety. If you haven't heard that, go check out the video on our YouTube. It's called Introduction to EFT, and then Tapping for Anxiety.
Yes, that, and then also Hillary Russo's podcast / interview on havening.
Absolutely. Havening is a very good way to kind of actually takes a lot of the principles from all these things and kind of gets it into one thing. But yeah, so one of the things that, hey, what's up, Christina? Christina says hello. Hello. All right. But so when you having problems sleeping, right? And I'm sorry, when you're having problems with energy, and it could be from sleeping, it could be from thyroid issues. You obviously want to go talk to your doctor, right? So when you go talk to your doctor, they might give you some things to try, right? So I've got a list of some things that you can do to try to help with energy. Obviously, we know that sleep's a problem, so we want to prioritize what we call our sleep hygiene, right? It doesn't just mean aiming for 7 to 9 hours of sleep. It includes things like getting rid of the blue lights that you're exposed to, that make your brain waves vibrate in a different length.
Right. You want to wind down blue light an hour before bedtime and make sure there's no lights on in your room, little LEDs in your whatever piece of electronics you have in your room.
Yeah, because you don't think that would be disruptive, but subconsciously, your eyelids, believe it or not, your eyelids are made to have the sun hit them and then slightly have light go through them. So you wake up in the morning when the sun hits your eyeballs. Mm-hmm. That's actually something we talked about in our spring equinox show. And if you have light and it's flashing, it will disturb you, right? So you want to have those things turned off. Obviously, don't drink caffeine. Don't drink alcohol. People think alcohol is good to drink before bed because it's technically a depressant, but it can be a problem for when you sleep. It can cause sleep apnea. It leads to a lot of problems with that. What are some other things, Bob? These.
Well, it can also make your mind race drinking alcohol.
There you go.
Right, and it makes you less inhibited.
Mm-hmm.
But also to the light and dark aspect, you want to make sure you get light during the day.
That's true.
So most people are inside most of the time now.
That's true.
And so your body has a hard time understanding, hey, it's daytime, and then the sun's going down, it's nighttime.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure you get outside during the day. The best thing to do is if you're working in an office, about every 20 minutes to a half hour, take a pause, even if it's only 2 minutes, ideally 5 minutes, and walk outside if you can. If you're on the 100th floor of a high rise, you won't even be able to get the elevator down before that time.
Okay.
But most people aren't. Walk outside, look at what is green, especially what's green in nature.
Green's very important.
Doing that, and then come back in, get back to work. The studies show that you get a lot more work done if you do that than sitting at your desk for 2 hours, 3 hours straight.
I heard on the radio, because we're a radio show technically, right? I actually heard on the radio that people who have that issue where like they work in a building and they can't really get outside easily, get yourself a plant for your desk.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually increases their mood and productivity at work, So, I mean, you might have to water it a little bit, but that gives you something to look forward to, like my cat, yelling at me when I first wake up.
That's good.
You know what I mean?
That's good.
Okay, anyway, so yes. Get a sleep routine. If you don't have a good one, check out our podcast called Tips for Better Sleep. That's on boomerboost.com. It's also on you can find anywhere streaming podcasts are. Just look up Live Forever Young Radio and look up sleep tips. You will find it. Cut back on booze. We talked about it, that your doctor would probably tell you to only drink alcohol in moderation or not at all, which is probably the best thing if you're having issues with energy and sleep. Tweaking your diet. Obviously, nutrient deficiency is something that we've talked about being a problem with fatigue and low energy. So tweak your diet. One of the things so we talk about not getting outside, right? We didn't talk about the vitamin D aspect too, right? If you don't get outside, you're not getting vitamin D, right? Yeah. And so there's things like that. And then if you're not eating a balanced diet and say you can't even get outside to look at greenery, you're probably not eating a good lunch. Right. So you have to look at places where you can kind of get something that's reliable. And that's kind of why we came up with Boomer Boost. Right. Yeah. This is going to give you pretty much a full dose of almost everything you need in here. Yep. Especially to create energy.
Depending on how much you're inside and outside, you might need a little more vitamin D than what's in Boomer Boost. And that's easy to do.
Yeah, actually, that's why in our total health system, we actually include separate vitamin D pills you could take depending on what your needs are, which is important too. If you're low energy and you were talking about getting tests done, one of the tests that you should have checked is vitamin D. Yeah. They don't actually do that anymore on your regular panel of tests.
Yeah. Vast majority of people in the United States and worldwide are low in vitamin D.
It's actually, it's one of the
billions of people.
Yeah. It's one of the ones that is most people are low in. So be aware of that. Get it checked if you don't know, right? Boost hydration, right? As you are taking supplements, as you are trying to feel better and have energy, water is like our body's oil. And if your car is low on oil, it's not going to be working too well. Same with your body. You're not going to have a lot of energy if you're not well hydrated because the water is necessary for all the functions in the body. Yeah. You got to lubricate the baby. So increase your hydration. We talked about stress, reduce stress, obviously, as much as you can using techniques like tapping, having, EFT, right? And then really importantly, I know it's hard. This is kind of like an oxymoron. If you're low on energy, how am I going to do exercise? Yeah. But believe it or not, exercise can lead to energy, right?
It can, and vice versa. I've talked to a lot of really top nutritionists in the world, and what they say is most people that have no energy for exercising is because they're malnourished. They're overfed, but malnourished. They're eating lots of junk food. They're drinking soda pop, other sugary drinks, and they have low energy, so they have no way to get out and exercise. They're just not into it. But as soon as you start to get well nourished, you stop all the sugar, start eating more good fats, have good nutritional supplements. Next thing you know, you're like, hey, let's go do something. And even if let's go do something is get up off the couch, go get in your car, drive down to the beach, walk around for a while, that's more than what you were doing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Next thing you know, you're going to want to take a little road trip, go for a long walk in the park, and all that kind of thing.
Well, that's where I was going to go to. I mean, we talk about, okay, well, yeah, do this, do that, do this, do that, do that. That's easy to read a list of. But the thing that really, what we talk about having to do in order to kind of commit to this is make new habits. Right. If we have bad habits, you're going to get bad results. And so what we need to do is identify the bad habits and try to replace them with good ones. We have a technique we talk about all the time, tiny habits, right?
Yep. And a podcast on that too.
And a whole podcast.
Imagine that.
Imagine that. No, sorry. It's just funny. Yeah. Me and Bob were talking about, man, when we decided to do the live, we were like, we're like, okay, well, what show do you want? I was like, well, let's do one about it. Well, we already did that. Let's do one about, well, we did that. And it's not like we did everything, but one of the things that we wanted to do is actually interact. And so that's why I was hoping we get some people on here. Hello, Christina, again. Thank you. And I saw we have Aaron in here. We also have Snaper. Misha is in here. And Brian is in here on TikTok. So hello, everybody. That's kind of the whole reason why we did this, so
Yeah.
that way we can have some people interact. And then way, if you have questions and stuff, you can actually ask.
Yeah.
And we could address them real time. Live.
So with this energy issue, there's a lot of good reasons why you want to increase your energy.
Sure.
What's the result of getting a good night's sleep, getting good nutrition, starting to exercise, get your blood work done, so you know if you need D3, more or less iron, etc. So when you have more energy, you feel more optimistic. You have low energy, it's easy to focus on the negative. It's easy to awfulize things. You also will have more focus. So you'll be able to focus on the tasks at hand that are going to make a change in your life, a change at work, a change at home.
Right.
You'll be able to also be more productive, because when you're more focused, you can increase your productivity, get more things done. You can also increase your creativity. Very hard to be creative if you're feeling low in energy.
You get stuck in. You came up with a phrase I love. You get stuck in default mode, where you're just literally doing the same thing over and over again. No creativity needed. Going through the motions. You're stuck on default mode. A lot of times that could be from low energy, but there's other times it could just be from not having the motivation or the solemn commitment to these.
It's important to be aware that that you have to spend time focusing on gratitude in the current moment and joyful anticipation for the future based on your actions.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, most people are performing from the past. So they've done the same thing over and over again. 99% of the things they do today is the same exact thing they did yesterday, and very little time for creativity and change. And this by itself can lead to depression. Because it's mundane.
Yeah, and there's a quote.
I'm bored.
There's a quote by Bill Belichick. It goes, "To live in the past is to die in the present."
Yeah.
That's kind of what you're doing to yourself. By living in that past, you're not giving yourself the ability to be present. Right. And that's where the magic's happening, is in the present. That's where things can change in the future, is now. Mm-hmm. You can't change the future if you're looking at the past and you're not focusing on the present or the now. And so that's one of the things when you had mentioned about why would you want to have more energy. I think that's a great place to start if you have low energy.
Yeah.
Start with that result that you're hoping to get.
Yeah.
So that way you have a motivation to reach for that goal.
Yeah. And what also goes hand in hand with that is being off track, being off your path.
Mm-hmm.
So people are born onto earth, and as circumstances happen, there's an inspiration that people receive. Maybe it's from a mentor, their family, maybe it's through prayer. Mm-hmm. And like, okay, this is why I'm here. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be helping with this.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But then life happens and they end up doing busy work. The past is always present, like the name of the book about havening, when the past is always present. And so now all of a sudden they're off their path.
Right.
They're off their life path. And one of the best ways to gain more energy is to recommit to that inspiration that you may have had years ago or even recently, to get back onto that path and start taking actions that relate to it. Mm-hmm. So if, for example, you were inspired at one point to be helpful with animal rights, okay, and you were inspired because you saw a television commercial that said, we need help with people for adopting pets. And you've always said, I'm going to go down and volunteer at the animal shelter, right? But you've not done it yet. Well, not having something to do that feels meaningful to you is being off path, and you're not going to have as much energy as you would if you were to get back on your path.
Right.
Now, other people have different paths. Some people want to help with the orphanage. Some people want to help at the school, volunteer at the school, all kinds of things like that. But the important thing is, whatever it is for you, do it.
Right.
Do it.
That way you have that motivation too.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, JC, man, thanks for stopping in, buddy. Appreciate you sharing out the live. We're talking about how to increase energy naturally, why your energy levels might be low, and we're just hanging out. This is our 4th or 5th YouTube. We're also streaming on YouTube and Facebook. So if you get a chance to check it out, we have our YouTube channel where we're live, and we have our Live Forever Young Radio Facebook page. We also have the Boomer Products or Boomer Wellness Network page live. So we're trying to do multi-streams. I would love to put TikTok here, but it won't let me do that. So I have to use my phone. So sorry if it feels disjointed, but I'm really glad you're here. Me and Bob were just talking about the reasons why you would want to have more energy. And we were talking about the results, a sense of accomplishment, feeling better, being able to run around with your kids, all that kind of stuff. So
ultimately, it's about happiness.
There you go.
Wanting to be happy. So a lot of people probably have this phenomena where they have a vision for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the philosophers say your highest vision for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So here we are in this particular moment in time. We've been on the planet for a certain number of years or decades, and our personality and our level of happiness has evolved to a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
But we say, okay, how would I like to be in the future?
Right.
What is it that we want to become?
Mm-hmm.
What's the ideal vision, the highest vision for ourselves in this body, with this brain, with this spirit, on this planet?
Mm-hmm.
What do I see for myself? And everything starts with a vision, with your imagination. And so people can say things like, I want to be more patient because I want to be known as a kind and loving person.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I want to spend more time volunteering because I want to create the self, my own self, as someone who's a contributor. Right? And I don't want to spend all my time working and then going home and just watching TV all night long and not contributing. I see this vision for myself. Some people who are highly spiritual might have a vision of subjugating their ego and becoming more of a spiritual mirror for other people.
Mm-hmm.
So they have this vision. Right. And so, but everything starts with a vision. If you've never thought about this before, create that vision for the highest manifestation of yourself. What would it look like? How would you look if you were like this highest vision? Okay. And then what would you be doing? What would your actions be? And how would you feel? Most importantly, how would you feel? And so one of the things people can do is write down on a piece of paper that description of their highest self and make it as big as you want. Use 10 sheets of paper if you want to. But you can also start with one thing. My highest vision of myself is to be more patient and loving. Right? So a lot of people have that goal because especially now with all the stress in society, right? So put that in the middle of the page. And then on the left side of the page, write the word why. Why do I want to do this? Right? What does that mean for me, for my life? And then on the far right side, how will I feel as I become that person? As if it's already happened. I'm so grateful now that I'm feeling so proud of myself because, right? I'm so grateful now that I feel more peaceful because I have done this. Right? Now, once you've done that exercise, you can then write down some tasks, some steps. So with that example, to become more patient and loving, right? study nonviolent communication. So you write down step number 1, purchase the book Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg.
Or check out our podcast about it, how to use
Watch
nonviolent
the
communication.
podcast that I can find on boomerboost.com on nonviolent communication. But then endeavor to study it.
Oh, yeah.
We like to
Go
say,
beyond.
secure a fluent command
Yes.
of the concept. And that's not the only way to become more peaceful and loving. People can meditate, pray, et cetera, et cetera. There's other books you can read about it. That's just one that we found to be, extremely helpful.
It's a good one. It helps put a lot of stuff in perspective.
Yeah, it says, just in brief, they have an acronym, OFNR, OFNR.
Right.
And O is if you're going to be patient and loving, right? The O is to observe without any judgment or interference.
Right.
So if you're speaking to me, I'm going to be listening completely. I'm not using my mind to think of interrupting. I'm not using my mind to think about an answer I'm going to give you or a suggestion. I'm just listening.
Actively listening.
And,
really.
and if anything, I'm listening for how you feel.
Mm-hmm.
Because F in OFNR is how the person feels.
Right.
And so when they're finished speaking, your response is related to their feelings that you think is what they're feeling. So your response is, it seems to me like you're feeling a little bit frustrated,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then just stop. Because the person's going to say, well, yeah, I am. And there's a good reason, da, 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 da. Or they're going to say, well, it's not frustrated. It's just that I'm angry. And I'm angry about this. And so as people are free to express their feelings, then you can move to the N, which is needs.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems to me like maybe you would need some of this, some time off,
Mm-hmm.
some time away, some more time to meditate,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the person may say, no, that's not what I need. What I really need is for me to be able to communicate better with my spouse. Okay. Well, okay. And then the R at the end, especially in interactions, is for a request, a reasonable and respectful request.
Right. It can't be anything off the wall because then you've just undone all the work you did on the first OFN.
And the idea is to have a request that can be met, that meets a need, that helps with the person's feelings.
Pretty simple.
Yeah, but not the way most people communicate. So that's why it's so valuable, because once you learn to do that, you have a lot less frustration in your life, especially in relationships with your spouse, your kids, your friends, your colleagues, and you will have more energy because you're not constantly under stress and anxiety whenever you have to communicate with somebody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the things that I use that with is really to communicate with my daughter. Because it actually, once I start observing and then thinking about the feelings, one of the things it helps me do is relate to how I felt when I was that age, or maybe what I did or didn't know. Because sometimes I think we all kind of expect kids to maybe know more or be more aware of some things, but they're kids. Right. And then when you think about, observe what they're doing and be like, okay, don't judge it. And then you think about the feeling, you're like, oh, I would have done the same thing. Like I probably did do the same thing about 300 times. And that's the only reason why I know to tell them to do it a certain way or try to help them understand to do it a certain way. So anyway, it's good. It's a very good technique. NVC for short, nonviolent communication.
Yeah. Ultimately, I think that a very high state of feeling or being is gratitude just for being alive.
Hey, Dalton, our friend Dalton's in
here. Hey, Dalton, how are you? We met Dalton on a Zoom call. We interviewed him for a couple hours one day.
Yes, I have my last episode of our podcast with Hillary Russo that we were just talking about. I have that one coming out in about a week. And then your episode with us is coming out soon too, Dalton. So I will be sure to get that to you when it comes out. Good to see you in here, bud. Awesome. But yeah, we've got it's been about 45 minutes, Bob. So if you have some other stuff you want to go over, we can.
Yes.
And
So there's other aspects to your physicality
Mhm.
for energy. One of them is circulation. So
awesome.
in order to have enough energy, you have to have enough oxygen in your cells,
Mhm.
and you have to have the right nutrients that make their way into your cells to create energy. And all of that has to be circulated.
That's
So
true.
it ends up in your bloodstream. You have red blood cells, you have hemoglobin, and you have oxygen attached to the hemoglobin with iron we talked about before.
Mhm.
This moves along in your bloodstream, arrives at the cell, releases the oxygen, boom, you have oxygen and you have more energy, right? And the other thing is the nutrients are transported in your blood as well. You need the B vitamins, CoQ10. You need a supply of sugar in the form of carbohydrates to burn for fuel, fat for fuel. And if you can't circulate it, if your circulatory system, your heart, your arteries, your veins, your capillaries are not working properly, then you're going to be tired. So, for example, one of the things that doctors will always check for if someone shows up and they're tired, they immediately think maybe there's a blockage in the circulatory system. So they're like, all right, we better do a stress test. And they have a special test where they can tell how much oxygen the person's able to uptake. They have a test they do that's called pulse ox that is measuring how much oxygen you have. And what their concern is that what if there's a severe blockage in someone's arteries in their heart and they're about to have a heart attack?
Mhm.
And so many of people's lives have been saved who showed up at the doctor with low energy, and the doctor said, let's see how you do with a stress test. And a stress test meaning let's put a little stress on your circulatory system and see what happens. And they
Not
measure,
too much.
Yeah, and they measure while you're exercising lightly
Mhm.
to see what's happening with your vital signs. And if it looks like, ooh, this person has definitely got a problem, then they immediately will send them for diagnostics. And many people have gone from stress tests to surgery on their heart to save them from a heart attack. And so circulation is absolutely critical because it can become critical. It can be a life-threatening situation. Now, in general, though, as people age, their circulation drops. Okay? And there's many aspects to circulation. We've done a whole podcast on it.
Yes, we have.
Just in general, you have to have the right veracity of your arteries, your arterioles, your venals, your capillaries, right? And there's a compound called phosphatidylcholine that helps to make up the cell walls that gives them elasticity. Right? Very important. It's another compound called arginine, which is a precursor to the creation of nitric oxide, which helps to dilate your capillaries,
which is
to
really
allow the blood
important
through.
because if your capillaries and arteries or veins and arteries aren't doing that, then you're not getting the pulsing flow of the blood to the extremities. Because we figured this out on the last one or two. 25% of the blood
is pumped by the heart. Right.
But
so the larger arteries are large enough that when the heart beats, it pushes. Right. It pushes the blood through. But as the capillaries, when you get to the capillary level, which are microscopic, they're smaller than your hair. You can't see them. They have to have their own action that makes them open and close. And that's that vasodilation. And that's 75%. Yeah, that's the 75% of your circulatory system. Arginine helps with that. And also phosphatidylcholine helps to keep your arteries supple. But then in addition to that, there's two other things. One is innervation. So this is a catch-22. So your nerves are cells, and they need to be nourished with blood flow. But the nerves also fire, and as they do, you have contractions in your muscles, and your capillaries will open and close. So if you have problems with your nerves, you have trouble with circulation. If you have trouble with circulation, can have trouble with your nerves.
Yep.
And it creates a serious situation.
Diabetics have that issue.
Yeah.
A lot of diabetics have
the other
that issue.
thing is and critically important, we evolved in certain conditions on planet Earth, certain gravity, right? A certain atmosphere, certain light from the sun.
Right.
But also the core of our Earth was critical in our evolution. The core of the Earth is molten, but it's just solid enough that it's spinning inside the Earth, and the Earth itself is spinning, and it creates electromagnetic pulses that are coming from the core all the way through the surface of the Earth, and our bodies are exposed to these electromagnetic pulses.
Right.
Two in particular, one that dilates the arterioles and venols, and the other pulse that comes behind it is dilating your arteries, like boom, 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 boom. As we age, the photoreceptors for those pulses that are in our bodies tend to not be as receptive, and so our circulation drops. The good news is there are devices, some people call them circulation mats and other things that you can get that you can lie on.
They mimic the pulsed electromagnet.
Mimic those two pulses.
That's awesome.
And so now your circulation can improve. That 30% you lost can be regained if you have one of these special circulation mats.
Absolutely. And we talking a lot about circulation, which is very important. But one of the things, and it was even one of the things on our list here that can cause chronic fatigue here, is poor digestion.
Yeah.
Because what we're talking about is getting these nutrients, the oxygen, to the parts of the body that need it. But if you are unable to actually digest your food, you're not going to get the full nutrition out of it. Same with your supplements. I mean, you could take all this in the world, but if you don't have something like this barley that cleanses the plaque and gets the villi rejuvenated, that can help you absorb like you were when you were 20, 30 years old, you're still going to have the same issue. And you're not even, circulation's bad, but if you don't have anything to circulate, that's even worse. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And we get reports all the time, testimonials where people talk about how much better their digestion has gotten from using numerous different ones of our products. And that's a big thing. So it starts with, what are you eating and what supplements are you taking? Are you digesting it properly? Are you absorbing the nutrients? And are you circulating them? And do you have the ability to detoxify? It's
like a bucket brigade. If one bucket doesn't keep passing it along, they lose the chain, and your body's not getting what it needs. It's funny when you think about that, but that's why it's called a body system, a circulatory system. That's a system that relies on other components.
Yeah, you also have a respiratory system.
Right.
And so respiration
Digestive
is really important because your respiratory system is what is oxygenating your hemoglobin, right? And so spending time focusing on your breath, taking deep breaths in it, and this helps with anxiety also. Develop a small practice where you're breathing in for 5 seconds and you're breathing out for 5 seconds rhythmically. Right now, for you, it might be 3, it might be 4. Some people, it might be 7. The more you do it, the longer that time will be. And if while you're doing this, you also focus on what you're grateful for, right? And create what's called a gratitude stack. Okay? I'm so grateful for my spouse. And you feel that, right? While you're breathing. Why am I grateful for my spouse? Because she's so kind and loving in general.
And deals with my crap.
Take another breath. She's so even more kind and loving to our daughter.
Yep.
Right? She's very sensitive to other people's feelings and is very helpful in all of the different groups that she's involved in. She's always thinking about other people.
She makes a mean meatloaf.
There you go. And so this is very simple practice.
Sorry.
And we have a podcast about that called Finding Your Inner Balance.
Finding Your Inner Balance. And not only does it actually talk about the breathing, but it also talks about this device by the HeartMath Institute that helps to keep that actual track of your heart with a little clip on your ear that links to your cell phone. And it's quite amazing, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
It's quite amazing.
Another thing about flow is the flow of your chi, the flow of your life force energy. We know from science now that there's a kind of a mysterious energy that's flowing through these meridians. That's why acupuncturists can heal things like a sore neck by putting a needle into your arm, etc.
Your earlobe.
And the flow of your chi, very important. So there's actually a machine, they call it Chi Machine. And it's a device that's about this big, and it has two valleys in it. Do you lie on the floor and put your ankles in those with your toes facing up, and it wobbles from side to side.
Whoa.
And as it does, you start to feel energy because it's stimulating your chi from the bottom up, and all of a sudden the flow of the chi is enhanced. They call it Chi Machine. Right?
Not a Chia Pet machine, a Chi Machine.
Yeah. And so here's one last thing, is the flow of energy that's coming into you and is going out to other people.
Yes.
Right?
We talked
So
about this.
another little exercise, close your eyes, imagine a V shape like funnel or vortex that's going up. It's coming out of your crown chakra, right? And you're imagining the flow of the energy of creation, right, is coming into you, right? And you are then giving it off. Right? And so you're saying, fill me with beautiful, loving energy, and I'm going to share it with others.
Where do you share it from? Your heart?
From your heart muscle.
All right.
And so we know that electromagnetic pulses are coming off of your heart muscle.
Right.
And the wavelength and the pulsation, the power of it, is dependent on what's going on in your body, mind, and soul. And you can alter that particular broadcast that you're putting out through things like meditation, imagining loving energy coming into you, going out, and the best way, two ways to do it, is with what we talked about with gratitude and with a focus on your breath. We know that changes the way your heart beats. That's what the device is for. Okay. And the other is focusing on the present moment and your joyful anticipation of the future and being on your path. That totally changes the way your heart beats and totally changes the electromagnetic pulse coming off your heart. And those are the more spiritual, energetic aspects of energy. So energy is not just, hey, let's get up and go and play football.
No.
Energy is also the flow of the loving energy of creation that you take in as almost as if you were a glass that someone fills with a pitcher. And you say, here, would you like a glass of water? But as soon as you pull the glass over, the pitcher fills it up again. And every time you set the pitcher down, you look at it and it's full. So, and it's filled with this beautiful, pure, clear water you get to share with everybody.
Nice.
It's an endless pitcher. Well, the light of creation is an endless pitcher that we can always be filled with.
Nice.
And so we never have a lack of loving, compassionate energy to share with others, because where we're getting it from, the source, is infinite.
There you go. That's called chi energy.
Yeah.
We need to refill.
Yeah.
We need to refill. I love it, Bob. That was
energy.
Very beautiful. Very beautiful. I love that part of what we do here at Boomers and at Live Forever Young Radio, where we have great supplements, right? We have really awesome stuff that'll help, right? But we also take the time. We have people who will actually call and that you can call and talk to. Actually, our phone number is 1-800-861-4609. Got some great people like Gene and Jim and Stephanie and Lucy that you could talk to.
And Dan.
And Ann. Don't forget Miss Ann. She's been here the longest.
And Raleigh and me.
Yeah, well, we're here. Look at us. We're here. We got to be here. We're here to talk to you live. But anyway, if you can't get to us through our live chat, for some reason, give us a call. But yeah, Bob, we literally have about 40 seconds left on our stream here. So I say we filled the time with some really good information. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you guys, like I said, if you have any questions or you want to see more, go to boomerboost.com. Join us Tuesdays and Thursdays, 11 a.m. EST for our live show on TikTok here or on YouTube. That would be Boomer Forever Young. or Boomer Wellness Network on Facebook, or Live Forever Young Radio on Facebook as well. But apart from that, we got 10 seconds. Anything else?
I would say use these techniques we talked about today. Ultimately, create the paradise of your own choosing.
Beautiful.
Feel it, live it, share it with others. That becomes the note, the beautiful note that you contribute to the universe. And just be that.
I
all
love
the
it.
days of your life.
All the days of your life, be the beautiful note that you know you can be and resonate for others.
There you go.
I love it.
Thanks,
Very
Rob.
good. Very good. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Have
Thanks,
a good
Christina.
one. Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining. We'll see you.